Welcome to another digital whiteboard session with me. Today we're talking about Reddit ads, the pros, the cons, and we'll even do a walkthrough of my ad manager account on Reddit to just show you some data here. I want to cover all of these points. Before we get started with the details though, let's just have a quick thought about what Reddit is and why it could matter. Well, what Reddit is it's a popular social media platform, especially for organic engagement, but it does get quirky pretty quickly. The way Reddit works is it's essentially set up as one platform that's segmented into a ton of subreddits. For instance, at some point, Wall Street Bets was a very popular subreddit that was driving wild stock fluctuations in different publicly listed companies. Like I think GameStop was one of them. So these are subreddits, and people that sign up for Reddit can self-select into these subreddits depending on their specific interests, depending on the people that they want to engage with. It gets really, really specific in terms of the subreddits. For instance, on entrepreneurship, you will find subreddits on startups, on entrepreneurship, on sales, on marketing, on fundraising, everything. And this is just the entrepreneurship space. There are subreddits for any other consumer or business related topic that you could think about. And quite frankly, if there isn't a subreddit yet, that may be your golden opportunity to create one and have people join it organically so that you can build a community on that platform. Now, I already mentioned self-select. And that's hint is kind of a pro of Reddit ads. People self-select into these subreddits, and we'll talk about why that is great for you as you market on the platform. Now, additional quirks or special things around Reddit include that people don't use their real names, which makes it hard organically to build a following. It makes it, in some cases, a little bit more direct in its communication, but overall, I find the community on Reddit really friendly as long as you adhere to some basic rules like not being overly self-promotional. People then up and downvote posts that they like that have been posted organically. Most posts are text, some are photos and videos. That does exist, but it's very text-based, though it could potentially change depending on the subreddit that you're in. I mostly spent my time in, some of the startup-related subreddits that I mentioned, and those are largely text-based. And they are usually, and I think that's especially as you think about it from an organic perspective, but it also ties in with why Reddit ads are potentially a very interesting thing to test for you. Very strict rules around what you're allowed to do in a specific subreddit versus what you're not allowed to do. So, for instance, you're usually not allowed to link to external sources. You're usually not allowed to promote yourself. That very much limits the type of content to the type of valuable interactions that you want to have in a community, and just make it, a friendly place to be that is in some sense safe for everyone. Now, obviously, since organically self-promotion is not, usually not possible, there are certainly ways that you can think about that work on Reddit, and I'm happy to cover those in a later video, that does impact what you can and want to do with the platform, and that's where Reddit ads come in. So let's talk about the pros of Reddits. First of all, you can actually advertise on Reddit. That wasn't possible forever, so that's a big pro. And it makes sense to do that, especially once you understood the platform a little bit, once you understood what consumers on that platform are like, or just users, I should say, Redditors. Once you understood them and know how to message so that they may respond positively to your ad, since you don't have another way to self-promote, you usually cannot do it in the subreddits directly, so you have to do it in that way, and it's not possible. The second pro, and that's the first one on the list that I have here, is that it's actually super easy to set up a Reddit ad. If you have the visual and the copy, it shouldn't take you longer than literally 15 minutes. The second or third time you do this. The first time, maybe it's 30 minutes, especially if you have to explore which subreddits you want to target. It could take a little bit longer. The third benefit, again, let's go by this list that I have here. So the second is that, and you will see that in the data later, is that Reddit ads has super low cost per mile, so CPM, and super low cost per click, CPC. and it gives you great targeting capabilities. As mentioned, Reddit works with subreddits, which people decide to join intentionally, which means you can actually trust the data and know where it's coming from because it's right in front of you. And that means it's completely different than on a Meta or LinkedIn has some of these capabilities, since you can potentially target specific companies, the job titles, and you can verify that the people that you've been targeting actually have these titles in some way. But you certainly can't do that in Meta, and also on LinkedIn. If you're targeting other criteria, you may not have as much clarity and believability in terms of you actually reaching your audience, and that's obviously a big deal for advertisers that are spending real dollars on this. And then lastly, advertisers are usually a little timid to do this, but you can turn on comments on Reddit for your ads. And while most comments, because Redditors don't like ads, may be more negative, the moment you start interacting with these comments, one, you'll get a ton of learning in terms of how your audience thinks about your messaging and your product, and it's very valuable feedback. And two, you may be able to demonstrate that you care, that you're a Redditor and know how it works, and in that way sort of create more goodwill for your ad by actually letting people comment and you getting back to them in a positive and constructive way. Now, that's the pros. The cons of Reddit ads are primarily, first, most Redditors hate ads, especially if posted organically in a self-promotional way. That will get you banned from subreddits right away, or at least temporarily, potentially permanently. But it also means that relative to a platform like Meta, which has been blasting out ads for the entire existence of almost its technology and its platform, Redditors are still getting used to seeing ads and may not respond as open to interact with this as on other platforms. And that's why the CPM and the CPC is relatively low, because you cannot be sure in terms of your performance in this because of that. And the second bullet is an issue that I and a couple of my clients experienced. Not everyone, but some of them. And that's, while you do get great CPCs and you have relatively fair click-through rates, the time users spent on your page when you go into Google Analytics or an analytics software of your website hosting platform like Squarespace, you are actually seeing that the time spent on it is pretty low. And much lower than organic traffic to your website through search engines or through social media where you post it organically. And that's obviously a concern. You want people to be on your website. You want people to interact with your page and read through its contents and potentially even buy your product or sign up for your email list, whatever it is that you're trying to commercialize. And time spent on page being low is obviously a major roadblock to that. But that being said, the low CPC, the low CPM, the great targeting capabilities, the opportunity for learning, and also Reddit being a relatively unused or underutilized advertising platform relative to other advertising platforms. These are all benefits that potentially outweigh the cons and should give you the mental appreciation, or just in some sense let you feel good. That's the way what I wanted to say here. Let you feel good for testing this platform and starting to advertise on it. Now, having said all of this, let's actually go over to the ad manager and have a look at my account and just show you a couple of things as we do that. So I'll switch my screen share here and I'll go over to the platform. And what you start seeing here is, just in terms of timeline, I've spent most of the budget that I've been spending around the fourth quarter last year and the first quarter this year. I've done a little bit in April and in May, but not too much. And so here are the results that you're seeing in terms of data. I ran a couple of campaigns. I spent around $500 in total, so it's not a ton, not by far the amount of money that I would buy for my clients and used on other platforms. But hey, it's still a little bit of data to look at. And what you see is that I got an incredible number of impressions, which is a function of a very low CPM. You are not going to find the CPM elsewhere, especially if you target like business leaders the way I do that on, for instance, a Meta. Your CPM could easily be in a range of, let's say, 30 to 50 USD. Sometimes it spikes to 75, and you're just not going to get a lot of impressions. Of course, Meta has its benefits, like the click-through rates, and also just the willingness to engage with ads of its audience are much stronger than on Reddit. So again, there are fair reasons for this. And I've achieved a click per cost here of 128 and a click-through rate of 0.33. I'd say the click per cost is pretty reasonable as a function of, actually doesn't have anything to do with CPM. So it's really reasonable. On other platforms like Google, you would spend 5, or I spend 5 on average. On LinkedIn, it's usually 15 to 25, so much higher. The click-through rate, I would say, is regular. There is nothing good or nothing bad about it. If you do run ads on LinkedIn, for instance, you are almost guaranteed to see similar click-through rates, unless you do something that would artificially increase your click-through rates, which may or may not good, depending on what you're looking for. High click-through rates aren't necessarily good. You could just be using very open or promising language that incentivizes people to join or go to your website and then not deliver on it. That's entirely possible. You can drive up click-through rate artificially. So again, before I dive into how to create an ad, I find this actually pretty strong data. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say this is a function of me being the best marketer out there. I think this is generally the data that you could expect with running ads on Reddit. Now let's just quickly set up a hypothetical campaign. You click on that plus button, and then essentially you have 3 buckets of information that you need to fill out, and it's super quick, it's super easy to do. You have to set stuff up at the campaign level, at the ad group level, and then the ad itself. At the campaign group level, you can just give this some kind of a name. You can choose between different objectives. This is important because it potentially changes which audience Reddit would be targeting for you. For instance, conversions, if they have data on who has previously converted on websites or at least clicked on ads, then they are likely, that's my assumption, going to target these members of Reddit, these Redditors, with your ads more, and your click per cost or your CPM, your cost per mile may go up as a function of that. Whereas in traffic and in brand awareness, you will likely drive more impressions at a lower cost, but you're less likely to target the high value users of Reddit. And as you can see, what also changes here is whether it's cost per mile, or in this case, I'm using the simpler language, which is cost per thousand impressions. Here you're paying cost in traffic, you're paying per click already. In conversions, you pay per click, and it's the same for the remaining objectives here. This is an important decision. You do want to you want to make an intentional decision about which one you're using. Now let's assume, let me go back here and let me use conversions. That's the one that I like to use. And then down here, you start to, whatever this means, you start to do what really matters here, and that's selecting specific subreddits. And as I was mentioning, I'm mostly active in the startup space, and there is one particularly large subreddit here called Startups with 1.3 million users approximately that I could target. And that's specifically all I could be doing. Of course, not all of these Redditors are going to be active, and potentially none of these Redditors could be active during the lifetime of my campaign. But for such large subreddit, it's likely that these would. And of course, actually, this is a new feature that I haven't seen myself, beta. So Reddit obviously keeps working on this ad manager. You can add in additional subreddits here, and I could potentially also go. I think another large one is sales. I could be targeting. I could be targeting the sales subreddit. I could be targeting marketing, and there are subreddits for all of this stuff. I think I'm gonna go super specific. Yeah, I look at this. 7.4 million users that have categorized themselves into liking anime or League of Legends. Another thing that could be interesting depending on what you do. Call of Duty. So gamers are definitely going to be using this. Or I think, what did I say earlier? Wall Street Bets is also in here. So 14 million users, you could be targeting that too. I'm making it up. Now, up to you whether you would want to keep dynamic audience expansion on. I usually turn it off, especially on Meta, but also on here, because I do want to have tight control over which audience I target. There are also different interest groups here before I miss doing that. Let's say if I look at, maybe not this much, I would probably be more interested in business. I have business here. I could be targeting, anyone in business as well. I would probably not do that. What I really like about Reddit is just targeting subreddits. that I have validated to be interesting in terms of audience and content. So let me just remove that again. And then of course you can sort of, you can save these audiences for later use again. And then demographics, I do use this too. So I would target by country. I would say I want to target the United States and some potentially European countries. And I don't really care about devices, but this may be relevant for you. I don't really care about placements, as I think there are also just two: feeds and conversations. Feed is like the news feed. You have a news feed in Reddit, and conversations is in the threads for posts where people may be commenting and reading through comments. Brand safety around keywords and communities that you want to exclude. I wouldn't personally care about that. My budget changes. Let's just use 10 here. I would want to maximize my conversions. I usually go with whatever cost per click is in here. Sometimes I try a little bit less. Sometimes I don't really care and I go a little higher. Has never really made a big difference for me, at least not at my ad spend in this specific account that I'm having here. Now let's continue, and then you are at the ad level, the last one actually. You can name your ad if that's what you want to do. I can add my different creatives here, my headline, and that's pretty much everything that you need to do. Blah, blah, blah. I don't have an image prepared, but that shows up here. You have the thumbnail here. Yeah, I mean, this is just where you would upload the actual image that I have selected up here. You could also do a video, so that's that. And then if, for instance, with a video, it sometimes makes sense to have a custom thumbnail or be using a GIF. Oh, that is super easy. And then the destination URL is where you actually want to send the traffic. So in my case, that would be www.zendoc Labs, and could preview to make sure that I'm targeting the right website. It would be unfortunate if I don't get the right one. Call to action, let's say view more, or maybe I have learn more. Tends to be a little bit more generous in terms of click-through rates. And then I would turn on allow comments. It is important. It will allow Redditors to comment. Again, Redditors hate ads, so it will probably be some kind of more of a negative tone that you're going to get, but it gives you the opportunity for learning and to actually engage with the audience and get them across to take the jump to trust you in some sense. And from here you would go into review. I don't think I'll be able to go into review just because I haven't edited a video or an image up here. But that's then also the last step. You get an overview of what you can do, and you're literally done. I mean, this took me 5 minutes, and I've effectively done what I wanted to do. I've selected my subreddits. I need a visual. You can use Canva or anything like that in order to create that. You can use ChatGPT for the headline, and it's pretty quick. You can just use 300 characters up here. All right, that's it in terms of my walkthrough of this platform. Let me see how I can go back fastest to my profile. I don't actually, whoops, I don't want to go there. Let me just say up here, I don't want to actually continue and to figure out how to do this. So let's go back to the share screen and wrap up the video for today. And as always, if you have questions in the comment section below, I will get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, even though it was a little bit chaotic, leave a thumbs up. I would approve it, or I would appreciate it. And if you like the general type of content that I publish, do make sure to subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it and be eternally grateful for your generous contribution to my content creator journey. All right, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.